Hello, everybody. This is Jetty here with Moonflower Insights, and I am here to talk to you about the astrology and energy for January 2021. And so far, wow. We're a week in. There's obviously a lot going on. What the heck is going on? I'm going to tell you. But first, we're going to backtrack really quick and talk about New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve had a lot of people really in their feels, really in their emotions. I do believe that this was catalyzed by the full moon in Cancer that happened a couple days prior. And this full moon really had the energy of cracking open a lot of people's mother wounds and bringing a lot of emotions to the surface that had been suppressed for so long. And it was done almost in a welcoming way if you were able to sit with it and not quite, try to hold it in despite it wanting to escape. It's like if you've ever held a cat when the cat doesn't want to be in your arms anymore. It's like, get away. And it jumps away and you can hold it for as long as you think you can, but then ultimately the cat's going to go. If you just let the cat go, it's a lot easier. That's a really bad analogy, but hey, it works. But the energy was really welcoming for us to sit with those emotions, and it really helped bring up a lot of things that called for healing. I personally think I received a lot of healing around the New Year's. It wasn't fun healing. It was difficult because of all the emotions that were at play, but it's something that needed to happen. And I also feel like everything that we're seeing now going on somewhat needed to happen too. So pretty much going back to yesterday, yesterday was the day that Mars finally moved into Taurus. Now, Mars had been in Aries for months and months and months and months and months. We had a really long period of Mars in Aries. Now, Mars likes to be in Aries. Mars is at home in Aries. But during this long period of Mars in Aries, it was kind of constricted a lot by everything else that was going on astrologically. So it was like telling this kid that's like souped up on too much sugar to sit in a corner and not do anything. So it had all this like pressure cooker restless energy to it. And Mars is seen in ancient astrology as like a malefic planet. I mean, we think of it as a warrior, right? And what we saw yesterday was that energy finally moving forward. What happened yesterday when certain members of the United States, certain people that live here, parts of the population with certain beliefs, what we saw when we saw them storm the Capitol, that all happened within the anaretic degrees of Scorpio, or of Aries and Mars. Now, anaretic degrees are the final degrees of a planet in a particular sign, and typically that is when the energy is the strongest, when it's about to move out of that sign. Now, Mars finally transitioned into Taurus. We do have Mars in Taurus now. There's a lot of Taurus energy out there, but I'll get to that also shortly. But this Mars and Aries energy, once more, when we saw all of this bubble up and come to the surface in really violent ways, a lot of that had been reflective of everything that has been cooking and cooking and cooking since Mars entered Aries. I think it was back in June. Don't quite quote me on that. I should have notes in front of me. I don't. I just kind of talk. But finally, we are moving into a different kind of Mars energy. But the intensity of what we saw yesterday, that's going to likely continue throughout all of January 2021. January 2021 and February 2021 are the most intense months of this year. And honestly, this year has a lot of chaotic energy to it. We're throwing Uranus in the mix here, and Uranus makes 3 squares with Saturn this year. So with that, there's a lot of destabilizing that we're seeing. And this chaotic, destabilizing energy, we're going to see all year, but we're also going to see it somewhat into next year and maybe the following year. But I do believe it is going to be easier. A lot of what we were dealing with in 2020 astrologically was a lot of stuff that was deep within ourselves that was coming up to the surface. This year, we're seeing more of kind of like a top-down effect with that. As we move towards our new paradigm, a lot of old structures are falling. And with that, there is a lot of chaos out there. Now, I do think that all this stuff needs to happen. All the things that we will see falling, we're going to see a restructuring of the government. We already have with the elections. If anybody's been following that, the Democrats got control of the House and Senate and the presidency this year. the things that are falling aren't necessarily going to fall easily. So there will be a lot of really chaotic collective energy here. And I almost want to say that I feel as though the energy of 2021 is finding stability in chaos. There is a lot of really intense energy this year to move forward with whatever it is our particular life purpose may be. There's a lot of energy for us to work hard towards creating something new for ourselves, but it's really on the individual level. Ultimately, it feeds over to the collective, as the individual always does, and then vice versa. It happens too. The collective energy goes over to the individual. We're all like, I don't know, bacteria in a gut biome, I guess, so to speak. That's another bad analogy, but it works. But when we're dealing with this chaotic energy, or when it seems too much or overwhelming, it's really important for all of us to take a step back and channel that energy elsewhere. It can get really easy to get caught up in all of the emotions that are going on in everybody outside of us. And the energy now is calling, perhaps now more than ever, for us to really go inward. And I'm by no means saying to be complacent when it comes to politics, to be complacent with world news and world events. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying to exercise everything in balance. Stay informed, still vote, do all of those things that you feel give you purpose on a collective level, but also go inward once more and do those things on a personal level as well. It's not good for anybody's mental health to be externalized too much, especially when everything is so up in the air. I'm getting the image of somebody juggling right now that just can't quite, they're just barely grabbing onto everything that they're juggling, right? Just barely grabbing onto everything that they're juggling. So once more, when this energy is chaotic, channel it somewhere else. Now, there's also a lot of energy right now that's calling for rest too. We're going to see that a little bit less in the upcoming weeks. It has been really strong in the past week, and that's because of the different transits that the moon is making with the outer planets, but also just part of being here in winter. We are being called to rest as much as we need to right now. All too often, we label rest as something that is lazy or unproductive. We give it all of these negative words, and that's not what rest is. Nothing in nature goes full force 100% of the time. Just go outside and look at the trees in the winter, right? For the work that I do for the National Park Service, I help run a mental health initiative, and I wrote about this for our last newsletter. But if you're ever feeling down on yourself or feeling bad at yourself when you need to take rest or take what I like to call a sabbatical from the day, just look at the land around you. The land around you can always give you insight for how you're feeling if you want answers or if you feel like you need validation or anything like that. But even the trees are barren in the winter. They cut off the nutrient supply to their leaves once daylight is in short supply. This is why the leaves change color and then ultimately fall in autumn. But then they leave their branches bare throughout the duration of winter because they need to conserve their energy as they get ready to start anew. And that's how everything in nature is. It's all cyclical like that. And it's okay for us to take time to also fall into that, to take a day or two and just be and just rest and just relax, especially when things are so crazy. It's really important that we sit with our emotions as much as we can when they come up, and that we go into a form of radical acceptance with them. This radical acceptance will help us move on to something new for ourselves and into healthier cycles that are better for us. It's what will help us ultimately on a cellular level stop putting ourselves in unhealthy cycles that we've put ourselves in because of our conditioning that we gained when we were a child. Another good theme for this year is to remain stoic in the face of chaos. This title actually came to me when I was channeling the other day. I also do a fair amount of channeling. I recently took down my channeling videos on YouTube. If there is demand, I'll put them back up. But when I was channeling my guides, they were saying that this is really important for us to remain stoic in the face of chaos, because this chaos will continue, as I've already said. And to remain stoic is to be observant, right? To watch everything that's going on, but not let it affect you inwardly. There's a meditation that you can do about this. You can sit there, You can have your eyes open or closed. If they are open, they should be focused at one particular focal point. And then you can imagine like this indigo bubble around you that's protecting you, that's holding your energy in and keeping that energy out. You can look into Stoic philosophy as well. That may help. But these are some different tools that you can use when it comes to this up and down and up and down and up and down. Now, Mars in Taurus is going to be really powerful this month. There's a lot of Taurus energy out there. And that energy can create a lot of opposition, a lot of I'm going to stand here in my beliefs and my beliefs are right. This can cause a lot of aggression to come up in our relationships. It can cause a lot of aggression to come up in society, obviously. So it's also really important if you see that you are starting to feel angry, or if you see that you're starting to get triggered when talking with other people, especially people who are close to you that you love. Once more, take a step back. Take a step back and breathe. Imagine that bubble. Imagine your energy being yours and somebody else's energy being theirs. And then redirect that angry energy that you have elsewhere. But still acknowledge it. Still acknowledge it. 2020 really called for us to stop pushing things down. To stop pushing things down. To stop pushing things down. It's really important that we live to be more fluid and more accepting of things that are natural, like our own emotions, our own circadian rhythms, our own cycle of death and rebirth within ourselves. And the only way that we can do this is if we learn how to accept them all and to let them all flow as if they are drops of water down a stream. Anyways, I am going to pull a tarot card and see if our guides have anything else to say. We also do have a very powerful new moon coming up here in a couple days in the sign of Capricorn. And what's interesting about this new moon is it is new at 23 degrees of Capricorn, which in 2020 in January, the biggest transit that year that really was associated with everything that we saw in 2020, particularly with the pandemic, was the Saturn-Pluto conjunction, and that was also at 23 degrees of Capricorn. So this new moon that we have coming up, it has a lot of rebirth energy to it, and finally moving on to whatever it was that we purged this past year as individuals. I will make a separate video on that, probably tomorrow, but we'll see. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pull a card. See if our guides have anything that they would like to say. Okay, I'll call into this space. I can give you. Spirit guides, breathe me now. Just breathe me now. Please only allow beings of light dimension to be in this space. Please give me a clear and concise reading. Is there anything that the collective needs to know? Anything that the collective needs to know? So the card that popped out of the deck is the Three of Swords. It doesn't look like a happy card now, does it? The good thing with Three of Swords energy is it's usually very fast. You feel it, and then you learn, and you move on. What's hard with Three of Swords energy is, once more, we try to put off feeling it so much that it just makes the whole process longer. So we are going to be dealing with a lot of disappointment coming up, and a lot of things that are going to scratch at our wounds, really. Scratch out our scabs. During this time, like I said, just be within yourself, be stoic, write if that's what you need. Find some kind of outlet. Find something that gives you a sense of relief, and something that's private. Something that you don't have to share with anybody else, that's just for you while you process this. Any advice for how to deal with the Three of Swords? Any advice for how to deal with the Three of Swords? Any advice for how to deal with the Three of Swords energy? Any advice? The World. What a beautiful card to pop out to help us cope with the Three of Swords energy. The World is all about completion. It's all about completion. It's all about completion. It's all about realizing that you have finished a cycle, that you have learned your lessons, and that it's time to let go and move on. to let go and move on. That would be a really good mantra for all of us to have around the new moon, because although this new moon is a new moon, which typically new moons are associated with creating something new and manifestation, because this new moon is falling at 23 degrees of Capricorn, there is going to be more energy here that's almost like a full moon in a lot of ways, because it's taking stock of that which we have released. Typically full moons are associated with release. So give yourself time. Give yourself time to feel the feels. Give yourself time to tap into what's going on in the world, and then to put yourself away. Find comfort in whatever way you deem fit. And give yourselves a pat on the back, because everything that we're witnessing, everything that we are experiencing right now, we are here on this planet at this time for a reason. And we are all creating something new. We are all creating something new, but nothing new is worth having or building unless it takes work. And this takes work. This takes work. The work will be harder if it's something that you hold on to with the vice grip, but if you allow it to flow, it'll be just as easy as anything else, which at times can also be difficult. But anyways, thank you all for joining me today, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, share, subscribe, comment, all those things. It really helps me out a lot. Links in the description box if you want to book a private reading. I do private tarot reading, private angel channeled messages, private astrological readings. I also do Thai body work, and I do distance energy work as well as local energy work. I also have links below to my Venmo and my PayPal if you want to make a donation. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.